Chinese Premier Li Qiang has wrapped up his final day in Australia after 4 days of discussions on lingering trade barriers, security concerns, as well as ways to strengthen business and bilateral relations. Mr. Li visited a lithium processing plant in Western Australia. The state supplies more than half of the world's lithium, and China is one of its top customers. Earlier, Mr. Li and Mr. Albanese held talks in the capital, Canberra, as both hailed renewed ties and sought deeper economic links. But an incident occurred during a signing ceremony at Australia's Parliament on Monday. 2 Chinese diplomats had appeared to shadow and block Australian journalist Cheng Lei from view. Ms. Cheng had returned to Australia last year after being detained in China on espionage allegations. And for more, we are joined live by our correspondent Olivia Xiong in Beijing. So, Olivia, Premier Li, as we know, he wraps up his final day of visit to Australia. How is China viewing the outcome of this trip?
I'll tell you, before I get to how China is viewing the overall outcome of this Australia leg of the trip, I do want to talk about that incident involving the Australian journalist Cheng Lei that you mentioned there. We heard from Prime Minister Albanese that his office did make a complaint to the Chinese embassy about the behavior of those 2 officials during that media event yesterday, which saw the Australian journalist alleged that Chinese officials had tried to block her from being filmed, but China's foreign ministry a short while ago was asked about this and for their response to the incident, but the spokesperson said that he had no information on it and that planned talks were held smoothly and achieved positive results between China and Australia. And this perhaps pointing to the bigger picture of how delicate the China-Australia bilateral relationship is. To China, this trip by the Chinese Premier being painted as a sign of stabilizing relations. The Premier said that since Prime Minister Albanese visited China in November last year, more progress has been made towards re-establishing dialogue and cooperation. He even said that this was a comprehensive turnaround of bilateral relations after what we know had been a rather troubled relationship in the years before that. But no doubt both sides also acknowledging that there are differences that remain and that need to be managed with things moving forward. But where they have found common ground, it's clear that a lot of talk about cooperation with agreements being signed has been on the trade and investment front. Significant also that the Chinese Premier on his last day was visiting Western Australia, which provides about 40% of the world's iron ore, also Australia's largest export to China. We know that iron ore is used in China's steel making industry. Also, the Chinese Premier visiting an Australian mining company's research facility, as well as a processing plant, which is Chinese controlled, that produces lithium hydroxide. Now, that material being used in the production of electric vehicle batteries. And we know that EVs are part of China's new productive forces, which it sees as key to giving its economy, which has been challenged, a boost. But we do know that there have been concerns when it comes to critical minerals. Australia previously voicing concern over China's control over these supplies and the impact that it has on supply chains in the renewable energy sector. And so how this will be managed moving forward, clearly something that China and Australia will continue to have to work out, even as they press ahead with hoping to boost trade that they say will benefit both sides. I'll tell you.
Well, thanks for giving us China's perspective. Olivia Xiong there, speaking to us live from Beijing.